Hey everyone, Tony D with the Piney podcast. Gotta tell you, Phil continues to disappoint. Today's numbers, new cases, still under 2,000. I think it was like 1,700 and change, something like that. Again, these are positive cases. These are not people going into the hospitals. And even Phil acknowledges that all the numbers are going down, and we're at he calculated some number and said we're at a 28% positivity rate. That's not what's on the website. Last time I checked, it was up around 38, 39%. But regardless, all the trends say we're getting out of this. And Phil seems determined to leave things shuttered until his magical numbers read what he thinks will make everybody safe. I don't have to go over why that doesn't make any sense. But here was the big takeaway today. Look, Phil, he's a politician, so he spent part of his speech saying stuff like, here's a person who died from the virus, and here's what they're all about, and that's very sad, and blah, blah, blah. I don't fault him for that. It's something he's acknowledging citizens of our state who have passed, and it's a very politician thing to do. But at the same time, I don't. I'm sure that's nice for the families to give some of their family members who have passed some acknowledgement statewide. I don't have any problem with that. It is a bit of posturing, but the real posturing came when Phil, in his speech, because it's VE Day, equated the battle against the beer virus with World War II. Now, that is a pretty big comparison. Trump's made it. I don't think it's a very apt comparison. You could say that, the whole world's involved in a very loose way. That kind of is a thing, but it's not. People aren't doing what they did in that time. People were fighting a war. They were making real sacrifices. The sacrifices we're making haven't even come to roost yet. The fact that the economy shut down, that's all down the stream stuff, which is a nightmare for us because for politicians, they don't think about down the stream stuff because they know the public's attention span is very short. So once the crises with all the economic stuff hits, then they'll just pretend that's a brand new problem that they're going to solve for you. But the real moment, in my mind, came in his speech when he kept going on and on about fighting fascism during World War II, and then he compared the protesters to not fascists per se, but what he said was he was disgusted by people drawing parallels across the nation, not just in New Jersey, but across the nation, that anyone who would draw parallels between the fascists and people in government who would lock things down are disgusting people, and it's a false equivalency. Well, I think it's a false equivalency to also compare World War II to this virus. I mean, that's a false equivalency when you get right down to it. We don't have nearly as many deaths. All the predictions were overblown now. We know that. And people aren't fighting and dying like they were in World War II. They're not healthy people dying. These are older people, some of which who would have died anyway. And that's tragic and that's bad. I have relatives who are dying, by the way, just to let you know. I mean, I'm not, I have a large extended family, and there's always somebody who's on the brink of getting married or, gonna, and a funeral that we're gonna have to go to. And it's not happy. I don't want to endanger people, but I can see downstream where Phil is either willfully ignoring it or He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He'll deal with that later. And I get it. He's got a lot on his plate. There's a lot of people talking in his ear, but there's no denying that the science. And the science says most people under 50, over 99%, are going to be absolutely fine when it comes to this virus, which is comparable to the flu. So every day we've shut down the economy means someone's going to lose their business. Someone's going to lose their house. Where is Phil going to be when that happens? Oh, well, we have a food program and, we'll maybe get you on welfare. That's not what people want, okay? They don't want that. They don't want to have to go on welfare. They don't want to have to get food assistance. How long? You don't have unlimited funds, Phil. And that's a person you're turning into someone who paid taxes to someone who now needs to take money out of the system. And, we got millions of people across the country who are now out of a job. You're contributing to that by letting this go long. I get it. You're doing the right thing by sending the National Guard to bump up old folks' homes, but there's only so much you can do. Once the virus is in an old folks' home, they're screwed. They're screwed unless you isolate each patient. And I've seen these old folks' homes. It's difficult to isolate people. They're overcrowded. The conditions in some of the places are horrific. And they're very vulnerable to disease. And they're dying from other things, which is why they're in the old folks' home. They can't take care of themselves. And you've got caretakers coming in and out. They're the ones that have to be very closely monitored and have to be very careful. For everybody under the age of 50, this is just, unless they're going to one of these places, unless they're one of the workers, unless they're a visitor, they just don't have to be that careful, Phil. Okay? Trying to contain this in the state is impossible. I explained yesterday. This is a free country. People come in and out of New Jersey every single day. You don't have any border control. Your testing doesn't matter anymore. You'd have to test everybody in the state on the same day to get a result that made any sense. And you can't. You can't test fast enough. You can't process the test fast enough. It's impossible. You'd have to test millions of people all at once, process all the tests, and be able to go, okay, this is how many sick people we have. Now, I found out yesterday there is an antibody test. So good. Let's start doing some of that. But it's going to take weeks to test everybody in the state. And not everybody's going to be tested. It's just as simple as that. Not everybody has the time. But certainly all the healthcare workers need to be tested. Certainly anyone who's had the disease and recovered needs to be tested. And there might be a few key people that need to be tested in high-risk areas. But businesses are going to go kaput. You're talking about this long, arduous process where you're going to figure out things. What are you going to figure out? Mitigation. That's it. We're wearing the mask. People are wearing the gloves. What more do you want? How are you going to figure out each and every business in South Jersey and New Jersey and how they should open and how they should... You're trying to micromanage every single business. Meanwhile, you promoted a guy who just started painting American flags on pallets, and he's selling them to support the people, the businesses that are closed in Westville. And he's raised $7,000. Good for him. $7,000 isn't going to do much for all the businesses, in even in a small place like Westville. Maybe that covers some rent. Maybe that covers a few bills for people. Great. I'm all for that. I'm glad he's doing that. But it could have just been just as likely. I could have read in a news story that some local law enforcement shut him down because he's not an essential business. that too many people are coming to his house to pick up their American flag pallets, and then they shut him down. I mean, he's not an essential business, right? Oh, well, you think he is. And King Phil gets to decide who's essential, who's not, who's open, who's closed. That's not going to work. That's a centrally planned economy, and you can't plan it. It's too big. Millions of people in New Jersey. You cannot plan this. Even as you announce they're closing down the extra facilities they built in order to contain this, you're saying we can't open the businesses, that we still have to stay at home. You're assuming, and unfortunately, this is, there was another article saying that you're listening to Fauci, and Fauci wants to keep things closed longer and longer, but Fauci is a doctor. There's some evidence online to suggest that he may not be totally on the up and up, but I'm not sure if that's proven, although they did erase the documentary from YouTube, so that's very suspicious. But there's evidence contra to what Fauci says. Fauci's like, close down the country for another 2 months to be safe. Yeah, that's what a doctor would say, right? Doctor would tell you, well, take it easy for 2 weeks off of work. And what do? Well, you take it easy the first week, you start to feel better, and maybe you start to go back to work and half-ass it. Doctors aren't totally infallible. And evidence coming out of Sweden, they didn't mitigate at all. They're right within the range of countries and their rates. So they have the herd immunity. They went with that strategy. Seems to be fine for them. Now, there are other factors involved. But that is evidence to the contrary, that locking people up is a 100% cure. And you haven't given us any sense of where the numbers have to be in order for you to unlock things. You're slowly doing it piecemeal, which gives no one any data. So if I have a business and it's down the shore, I have to wait until you say, go. Okay? I can't plan anything because I can see the numbers, but they don't mean anything because you haven't told me the number where it all ends. Like, you say we're at 28%. Well, when do you open things up? At 25%, 20%, 10%? What am I supposed to do with that number? It means nothing. I still don't know when I could open my business. I still don't know when I could order stuff from vendors. I need time to open my business. You have to open things up. You make pronouncements like, well, I'm sure we'll have the beaches open by Memorial Day weekend, but with social distancing, some social distancing rules in place. That doesn't really tell us anything other than the fact that you're going to bother people on the beach, I guess. Are you going to send out cops to make sure no one's sitting next to each other? I mean, this is an unenforceable, foolish plan. People are going to lose their homes and businesses. And you're not going to be there. You're not a king, and you're not powerful enough to go, oh, I'm sorry, it was our fault you lost your business because of this disease. We made you shut down. Here's money for a new business and a new house. You don't have that kind of power. If you did, that would be a different story. If you could shut down everything and tell all the people who we pay bills to, okay, you can't collect any money for 2 months, well, I mean, that still wouldn't be fair or constitutional, but at least you'd be saving the people who you claim to want to save. This isn't working. You've got to open things up, and you've got to have a plan then. Well, we'll see. People are going to start to come out anyway. And I suspect most people are doing stuff on the sly, and that's going to just happen more and more. And then you're going to have more problems. Oh, well, we got to prosecute you now because you didn't listen to the lockdown. The lockdown's unconstitutional. You prosecute those people, they're going to turn around and sue the state, and then we're going to lose even more money. You have to open things up. Look, this is a no-brainer. Everybody under the age of 50 is pretty much out of danger. So cut them loose. Let everybody go, okay, you can open your business. Everyone under the age of 50 is, pretty safe. But we'd like you to continue mitigating and social distancing and, start the businesses off at 25%. They're going to be lightly populated anyway until things get going again. So start everybody off at 25% capacity. If you have to go into the building, please keep it under 25% capacity. And after a week, make it to 50. Whatever, rank it after 3 days, 50. I would say just open it up, but you could do it in tiers. At least get people to the point where they're sort of going again. At least get them back into their buildings to figure out what they need to do, and let them figure out what they need to do. Trump let you figure out what to do. He didn't stand in the middle of the Capitol building and say, this is the plan. You follow my orders. You're going to open on this date. You're going to close. You're going to stay close to this. I mean, that wouldn't have worked, right? The states are different. New York and New Jersey got hit worse. South Dakota never even closed. You need to do the same thing. You need to spread that out to cities. Cities got to open up slower because it's more crowded in a city. There's more spread. That people are likely to go right back into the bars. You say, slow it down, cities. If you're out in the sticks, who cares? If I run an ice cream parlor out in the middle of Hamilton somewhere, I'd be lucky to have 2 customers in the store at the same time right now. So let people open the damn place up. You have to do it. People are losing money. Everybody who had perishable product is screwed. They had to throw all that out. They lost tons of money. They have to get that all back in. It'll take at least a week. You've got people who they were right on the verge of opening or right on the verge of closing. Those people are done. Most of them. There's a business trying to open in my town. He can't open. He's starting to build the stuff he needs, but he hasn't opened yet because he probably can't. And that's aimed at kids. It's like a kids karate place or something. There's almost no danger there. There's almost no danger. There'd be more danger to the adults than the kids. The kids are practically immune to this. So you got to let these people open, Phil. There's just no other way around it. You're going to get murdered in the next election. Not literally. Figuratively, people are going to remember. And no one who lost their job and is now in a bad financial place come next election is going to vote for you. They're going to remember that, Phil kept us locked up. And how you're going to have to extend unemployment. Good luck doing that. Well, that's federal, but yeah, we're going to need it. You're going to have people on the dole for like a year in New Jersey while all the other economies shoot past us. New Jersey's going to be crawling out of the wreckage again. So I don't know what else to say. I think you should email Phil. I think you should text or Twitter at him and tell him open the state. Open the state, because protests they're inevitable now. They're protesting in Massachusetts, Phil, the most left-leaning liberal state in the United States is protesting. They want it to open up. Doesn't get more left than that. So protests are inevitable, and it's not gonna be pretty. So open the state, Phil.